Lawmakers continue their push toward May with more bills moving through the process in the Florida Capitol. There's serious pushback on a measure that could take money out of the city of Jacksonville's budget.
We're willing to help them with the other issues, but I don't want us to be swept up into something that wouldn't be best for our folks in Jacksonville.
Clay Yarborough shares his views and how he wants to keep JEA out of the crosshairs in the Senate. We're also hearing about the start of a new baseball season in Jacksonville. Jumbo Shrimp owner Ken Babby will join us. And how does the racial wealth gap change in America? Ashley D. Bell talks about a black investor group purchasing a Utah bank and why it can start tilting the scales toward equal on This Week in Jacksonville. So glad you're with us. We're about halfway through the 60-day legislative session in Florida. The first month can see a lot of bills make their way through the House and Senate, and then the second month can see the focus shift to the state's mandate of an approved budget. Right now, there is legislation that people in Duval County worry about, and it might affect JEA. I asked Senator Clay Yarborough about it this week.
We've had a couple of bills filed in both the House and the Senate that caught my attention pretty quick because it would affect JEA from the standpoint of moving it to be under the authority of what's called the PSC, or Public Service Commission, which usually regulates private utilities. And this would be a big different step for our city-owned utility to be under the purview of the PSC. We already have a public component, kind of public oversight of JEA, because we have a board that is appointed by the mayor and then confirmed by city council, which all of those individuals are elected by the public, by the voters in Jacksonville. And so we have that situation in Jacksonville where you do have public accountability and oversight of our utility. This is a law. These bills represent a law that would impact the entire state. It's not just targeted to JEA, but I have expressed to the bill sponsors that if the bill has other other intents behind it, then we don't want JEA or Jacksonville to be caught in the crossfire and kind of be receiving collateral when there might be other problems that they want to fix across the state, if there are issues with other utilities. So the message seems to be resonating with colleagues here in both the House and the Senate. I've had a lot of conversations recently with them about it. So, willing to help them with the other issues, but I don't want us to be swept up into something that wouldn't be best for our folks in Jacksonville.
One of the Duval delegation on the House side is Wyman Duggan, a state representative. Have you had conversations with him? I know that we've seen him kind of in the headlines about this issue and whether or not he would support it or support some changes or amendments to what's happening on this bill.
He and I haven't talked directly about it. There have been some communication back and forth between Representative Duggan and the folks at the city, and then we were included on some of that communication. And then JEA sent a response back yesterday to try to give us a little bit more information. And I know in one of the communications, Rep. Duggan had suggested that maybe the city's Office of General Counsel take a look at it to see if these bills would even apply to JEA, with maybe an opinion or a position on that. So I'm curious to learn that too and find out what they believe at the local level. But the truth remains that we still have to watch it and make sure that, whatever we have in any bills that may move here are not having a negative impact on the city and on JEA.
You've been a leader in city council in Jacksonville, and now you're working, on the state level here as a senator. City Councilman Matt Carlucci, I'm looking at some of the notes here, told us at Channel 4, he's worried that the bill subverts local authority. What do you think about that comment?
Well, because of the elements that were proposed in the original bills about giving the utilities oversight to be underneath the PSC, that would be a huge dramatic shift versus what we have known for many years with the way the structure is right now, with it being, city owned and managed by a board that is appointed by the mayor and the council. And I'm not saying, well, just because it's being done that way or been done that way for so long that we just keep it that way. These bills have come about rather quickly, and we need to make sure that if we are going to make any changes, that those are fully vetted, that everyone is able to give input, and that it's done in a very deliberate, thoughtful manner, and not just done in a kind of a rush to where it may not have good consequences or outcomes on the back end, especially because, again, this is a statewide impact and there are many other utilities that are impacted as well. But Jacksonville, the way we have our structure set up, is more one of a kind. We have a charter government, we have the city-owned utility, and they work very hard to make sure that structure is well working. So I just want to make sure if we do move forward with something, that it's balanced, that it's thoughtful, that it's deliberate. You've asked about public input, and all of that. That's paramount when it comes to JEA. It's a city-owned utility, and the people of Jacksonville, most of all, deserve to know what's going on with their utility, especially they're the ones who are literally paying the bills, and we need to make sure that they know completely what is going on and have that opportunity to provide their input.
I spoke with Senator Tracy Davis last week on some of the things that are happening in the legislative session right now. It seems like a lot of bills are moving kind of quickly in this 60-day period. And certainly for her as a Democrat and in the minority, her perspective is on one side. What would you say about some of the things that we're hearing about? School vouchers, that bill was just passed and then signed by the governor this last week. We're hearing about the 6-week abortion ban. What are some of the priorities and the things that are going through the legislature right now that you support?
We do have some bills that have already passed. We had the largest expansion of school choice in Florida history and really leading the nation among states. And what we're doing here to make sure parents are kept in the driver's seat when it comes to their child's education and the options that they have to make sure that their child receives the best education that he or she can. And so with the bill that was passed and signed by the governor this past week, that will expand to where parents can take advantage of scholarships that would be made available. The budget still has adequate funding in it for our public schools, which we're charged by the state constitution to adequately fund and make provision for. But our state constitution also says that education is a paramount priority for the people of Florida, but it doesn't mandate that it has to be only public school. So that's why I believe, and many others believe too, that parents should have every option available to them so that they can decide that best path for their students. So that was a big issue we've taken up. Tort reform on the legal front is one that has been taken up and has already been signed by the governor this past week. And then also some of the other bills with regard to child protection in our public schools, making sure that harmful medical procedures on children are not permitted in Florida, which has already been a rule by our Board of Medicine. We're just codifying that into law. That's a big deal. And then also not letting children be admitted into performances that are geared for adults, which are not appropriate. So there is a lot going on. There's many more on that list as well. But those are some that are already moving, even though we're not halfway through session yet, but they're big priorities that are important that we've been working on.
Senator Yarborough says that he's not sure the bill concerning public utilities will make it through the Senate, but he says he will strongly push to defeat it if it puts JEA and its employees at risk. Well, Jacksonville City Council also unanimously approved this week a resolution to tell the legislature to oppose these bills that could jeopardize JEA. All right, so just ahead, it's on track to become the first time black investors purchase a non-minority owned bank. A former White House advisor on entrepreneurship and innovation joins us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Black-owned banks are disappearing, but a man with a local connection is part of a group changing that. I spoke with Ashley D. Bell this week, a former regional administrator for the Small Business Administration, and at the time overseeing 8 states, including Georgia and Florida. He will be chief executive of Redemption Holding Company when investors close the sale on a Utah bank. I asked Bell about why this is unique, unusual, and really pretty important.
The group of investors you're speaking of are led by myself, Dr. Bernice A. King, who is the youngest daughter of our leader, Martin Luther King Jr., as well as Dahani Jones, who's a former NFL player, played for the Eagles, played for the Browns, drafted, by the Patriots. Just a good guy all around, who all of us have been leaning into this space of closing a racial wealth gap and trying to think outside the box, understanding how we got here as a country, meaning that there's a large gap between the wealth of African Americans, which is 10% of that of white Americans. And we saw an opportunity to step outside of the red lines, which are lines that were created back in the 60s and 70s that limited the places where African Americans could own homes, and purchase a bank that is solid, that is in a great state with great regulations, and has zero delinquencies on its balance sheet. And we think that buying a bank like that outside of a low-income community can be a platform for opportunity that we can export around the country.
So this is really interesting to me. More recently, we started hearing about what your group of investors was doing to buy that bank a month ago. In the last couple of weeks, we've heard so much about the fragility of banks. Silicon Valley Bank has really started this conversation in the last couple of weeks. How does this factor into even the level of risk that your investors are saying, hey, we want to be in the banking world, because it seems like there's some volatility there?
I think across the board, this is calling the question about, do we still believe in community and small banks in our country? And I think that we've seen, through my experience at the Small Business Administration, where I ran 8 states and helped lead the payroll protection program efforts, much of that went through small banks. You would have lost a generation of entrepreneurs had we not had small banks in South Georgia, North Florida, that were doing the hard work of getting money out. It wasn't JP Morgan that was in, Valdosta, Georgia. It wasn't, they weren't in, in Pensacola. It was the small community banks that are run by people and run by people you trust that saved our economy. So even though SVP failed, I think it was a unique situation where people lost faith in their bank, and it was a run on the bank. And then when too much money goes out, that can topple any bank. But that starts and ends with trust. Do you trust the people who are running the bank? And I think the people at that bank lost trust. Now, that doesn't mean there's been a loss of trust in the entire system, but it does mean in that particular situation. I think our bank included, and a lot of the banks that you bank at that are local are still doing the hard work, but they're running their banks the right way. And we still live in a country where people are worried that some banks are too big to fail and some aren't. But I still believe that for a bank to succeed and for it not to fail, if it's a community bank, it has to have the trust of the people in the community.
We've spent in the last couple of years really trying to do some stories, even at our TV station, to explain what food deserts are when communities don't have access to healthy produce and food and whatever. And then I saw this phrase researching what we're talking about today, that there are financial deserts. And I think that maybe plays into what you're talking about, community banks that aren't really in every community. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's really the importance of Black-owned banks many times. When you look at our country, the day that my co-founder, Dr. Bernice King's father, was assassinated, there were over 135 Black banks in our nation. Today, there's only 16. But these banks that are remaining do the really hard work because they are in the neighborhoods that most people won't lend. They many times are the banks of last resort, but there aren't many left. And so when you look at banking deserts, financial deserts, the reality is that these are places where people can't get access to capital or credit. And in our country, in a capitalist economy, credit is like water. Where credit flows, things grow. If you do not have access to credit, opportunity cannot grow. Without these banks, opportunity dies.
Help our broader audience understand the importance of leveling out that racial wealth gap that we've got here in the United States.
The racial wealth gap is large for many reasons that are just historic and buried in the history of our nation. African Americans are the only people in our country that have had to take a journey from being capital, meaning at one point being capital on somebody's balance sheet. There were people filing taxes with people on it as capital, but we were given a road to become capitalist. And the road from being capital to becoming capitalist has been a riddled one for us. And it begins with us having an opportunity to get access to credit. Credit in our system is like water. Communities that have credit, things grow. Communities that don't have credit, things don't grow. So if you want to really address some of the problems of poverty, of inner cities, of underserved communities, you got to give people the tools. You can't tell people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they don't have boots. You want to make sure that they have opportunity, giving them access to banks that will lend to them, that understands the needs of those communities, and can look at them holistically and not just by some of the traditional banking standards, but look at them holistically and look at the market opportunity. You can make money in any community if you understand it. And I think the people who understand these communities the best are the best at making money there. So we should invest in them. We should give them an opportunity to create jobs, to create opportunity through a robust entrepreneurial system. And we can do that, but they got to have access to credit to do it.
And we want to offer you more from that interview with Ashley Bell. You're going to hear his explanation of changing the qualifications for a mortgage when you join us on News 4 Jax Plus. That's our streaming service. It's available on Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Android TV, Chromecast. You just search News 4 Jax on your streaming device, then download it. And once you're there, you're going to find this interview under the This Week in Jacksonville channel. All right, it's April. That means to many the beginning of baseball season. What's new downtown for the Jumbo Shrimp in 2023? Owner Ken Babby joins us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
This Tuesday is the home opener and opening night for the Jumbo Shrimp of Jacksonville. Time for a new season of baseball and maybe more importantly, some great family entertainment. The man behind the entertainers is Ken Babby. News 4 Jax sports editor Justin Barney spoke with him at Media Day this week ahead of the season's beginning.
Here with Jumbo Shrimp owner Ken Babby, and the season is here. It is here. Home opener on Tuesday night. What are you looking forward to most about that?
I just love seeing our fans. There's something special when the gates open to the ballpark. Fans get super excited to get back in the building and get a chance to try their favorite foods, get back in their warm seats and start watching baseball again. We're really excited for the season to be here. It's an exciting time.
So how quickly does this off season go by? You've got so many things you're engaged in and doing and promotions and planning ahead. How quickly does this season get here?
You know, it's a funny thing every year. The season ends and I think all of us are, eager to take a deep breath after baseball season's long, right? 70 home games, 70 on the road. We, of course, also own a team up in Akron, Ohio, so it's a long year. And sometime around the first of the year, my wife is already ready to kick me out of the house and says, isn't this season here? Spring training starts soon. Isn't it time to get back to work? And we're really excited for the season to start. April is our favorite time of the year. Opening day, there's really nothing like it. It's like a holiday in our household, and it's here. And so we'll bring on the 2023 season for sure.
Minor League Baseball is so prevalent with promotions and excitement, and something you've always talked about is affordable family fun. That's kind of a catchphrase of the Jumbo Shrimp. What are your promotions when you look at the calendar of 2023 in general? What is your favorite promotion or two that you've got planned out?
You know, I like that every day of the year, every day of the week has a great promotion to it. Of course, Thirsty Thursday still a Jacksonville staple. I don't know if we created Thirsty Thursday in Jacksonville. Was here certainly long before I was here. Friday nights at the ballpark, our Red Shirt Friday, a chance for folks to come in and honor the military. And if you wear red, you get a discount off your ticket that night, which is an awesome experience for families and for people to be here. Every Saturday is a giveaway. Our full giveaway schedules at jackshrimp.com, and get a chance to see all of the great plans and bobbleheads and giveaways for the season. And Sunday is really my favorite day at the ballpark. It's really all about the kids getting a chance to come out, play catch on the field, run the bases after the game, and really cap off a great weekend. So every day at the ballpark is a great experience, and to be able to come in and still be able to enjoy a Jumbo Shrimp game. Tickets start at $5, $2 hot dogs every single game. There's really no greater value in town, and so we're really proud to be able to offer that to the community.
You talk about theme nights and the experience and stuff. What's your favorite theme night or two that you experience?
Well, there's a number of them. I think our military nights are really special. To be able to have folks in the building that are active duty or veterans and to have a chance to say thank you. We know Jacksonville is a military town, and the veteran presence here is prevalent in all that we do. But to have everybody here under one roof in the ballpark and to be able to stop and say thank you, that's an incredible feeling. It's probably one of my favorite nights there. And we'll have 6 military-focused nights this year, and each of them with different value, and a number of them with chances for fans to be able to get in at a discount. So that's really exciking for us.
That's great. So you've been here 9 years. So you're coming up.
Yeah.
You're coming up on them. So last year we were up in Savannah for the Savannah Bananas. We talked to Jesse Cole, the owner of the Bananas.
Yeah.
He said they had planned on coming to Jacksonville and doing something at the Shrimp Ballpark. They did.
Yeah.
You saw the Bananas when they were in town. What did you think?
It was incredible. And we're really lucky to be able to have them not only here for 2 nights as we did last month, but to have them up in Akron later this summer in July when it warms up there. So Jesse and his team have been phenomenal to work with. We're really proud that they sold out both nights here. They will sell out both nights in Akron for sure. I hear he's got a 50,000 person national waiting list, and says to me that baseball is alive and well, and particularly that around creating great family entertainment. So we're really proud to be doing it.
9 years as the owner, 10 years to be right around the corner. What have you enjoyed most about your tenure being at Jacksonville?
I just love how Jacksonville has grown. Folks have told me before we got here how incredibly, what a small town Jacksonville is, despite the fact that geographically it's so big. And it's true. You end up at breakfast with somebody who you saw at a party 2 weeks ago, or you roll into a school and you get a chance to be able to spend some time with kids. This is a really special town, and our family's really, really proud to be here. And I can't believe it's been 9 years already. That's amazing. But we hope to be here for a long, long time and love what we get a chance to do.
And your time flies when you're having fun. Thanks for Ken Babby for joining us here. Another great season starts at home on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and as Justin said, home opener Tuesday, April 4th. First pitch against the Durham Bulls, 7:05. However, fans are urged to get to 1-1 Financial Ballpark early. Jumbo Shrimp hosting a pregame street carnival starting at 4, and then gates open at 5:30. First 3,000 fans into the ballpark get a free season schedule magnet. After the game, stick around for the postgame fireworks. Always fun. Tickets available right now on the Jumbo Shrimp website. All right, next time, we're going deeper on some of the legislation on the table in Tallahassee. You're going to get a local expert's perspective on the fight over removing diversity, equity, and inclusion from public college campuses. This weekend at Jacksonville, it airs each Sunday morning at this time. I'm Ken Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4, the CW17, and online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. And if you're only joining me Sundays for This Week in Jacksonville, you're missing out. Be sure to subscribe to my weekly TWIJ newsletter. Real bonus for News4Jax insiders. Head to news4jax.com/newsletters and then click to sign up under This Week in Jacksonville.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.